I know a lot of entrepreneurs who really struggle with marketing their business, and it always comes back to, are you able to market your business in a way that feels good to you and is actually going to bring in your tribe, the people who are hungry for what it is that you have to offer? Well, today I brought a special guest to help us really fine tune our marketing process and learn a few tips about how to market our business from the heart. Hi, I'm Melanie Benson Strick, and I'm America's leading Small Business Optimizer. This podcast is always going to bring you strategies, tips, insights to help you make your business perform better and to allow you to do more of what you do best. And today I want to introduce you to a friend of mine named Ryan Harris. Now, Ryan is a former professional copywriter who turned to business growth and into a marketing coach for heart-centered women entrepreneurs and coaches, helping them focus, find their tribe, and get more clients with less effort. And I'd even like to say without all the unnecessary struggle. And I know firsthand that when you're not tuned into your tribe and you don't really understand this process, there's a lot of struggles. So Ryan, so glad to have you here today. And I'm really excited to see what you're going to bring to us, because in my experience, when you really kind of drop in and find your heart in your marketing, it's so much easier.
That's true. And thank you very much for having me here. I'm delighted to, I love chatting about marketing and finding your tribe. And when those things come together, it's a beautiful thing. So thanks.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's kind of start with what it means to find your tribe, because some people might not know what that language is all about. So what does that mean, you found your tribe?
Yeah, I like the word tribe. I wish I invented it, but I certainly didn't. Most people know the word niche. And they say, oh, I got to find my niche or, my target market. Those are some of the terms that are thrown around. So in my mind, a tribe is a little bit more narrow than that. A niche could even be broad, like healthcare or weight loss. It's kind of an industry or a type of a market. But a tribe is that group of people who are uniquely suited to benefit from your work. That's probably the shortest definition I could give it. There's sort of a spiritual aspect to it. There's certainly a marketing aspect to it. The way I explain it to people sometimes is any person has a particular set of gifts and talents and abilities and skill sets and all those fun things, right? So since we are all unique and we are all individuals and we do things a particular way, it just makes sense to me that there is going to be a group of people out there, a subset of the general population, whose their learning style, their personality type, their background, their experience is all going to put them in a particular place where your skill set and their needs sort of are a really tight match. And they're just going to love what you do and the way you deliver it. And your work is just really going to be that thing that they need to take their life to the next level. So that's how I think of a tribe.
Yeah, and I guess when I think of a tribe, I think of the people who kind of get me and I get them, and there's a real synergy and ease there. And I guess when you think about, there's obviously other people out there who do what you do. When you find your tribe, those are the people that uniquely are going to be called to do the work with you or to buy your specific messaging, and they're going to really relate to the way you teach or the way you solve the problem that they have.
That's right. And so I'm a big advocate of figuring out who that group is, first of all, and then focusing like a laser on them, which means kind of turning a blind eye to everyone else because they're just not the people for you.
Okay.
That's a shift. Most people freak out when they hear that.
And I was just going to say, I can imagine people are going to start freaking out when they hear that, right? Like, okay, don't deal with everybody else. So, all right, we got to ask the question. When you are really committed to and focused on your tribe and you figure out who they are and you start to develop your messaging and your programs for that person or that group of people, can you never work with everyone else? Like what's really happening in this dynamic?
Well, that's a cool thing. I think by focusing on a tribe, you have options. Let's put it that way. Because in my experience, when you focus on a tribe, you start doing more business. The people in your tribe are going to resonate with your work and be more eager to work with you. But that doesn't mean people aren't going to approach you and say, hey, I know you don't do exactly, I'm not exactly your tribe, but can you help me anyway? And of course, you certainly have the option of saying yes. or no. Depends on, if you
Right.
want to help them or not. And with that said, not everybody who's in your tribe is actually suited to be a client or a customer necessarily. They may have everything going for you, but for whatever reason, maybe they just seem a little too smart or too cocky or too timid, or there might be something about them that just makes you warning bells go off for you. So you think, I should probably filter out this person. They're not my ideal client. Well, there might be other people that in every other way are a great fit, except their issue is a little bit outside of what you normally do. That's okay. You can choose to work with them or not. It's up to you.
So it really gives you choices. It gives you an opportunity to really know where you do your best work, which obviously is going to be a lot less a lot more effortless. Wait, effort, yeah.
Yeah, more effortless.
Effortless. It's funny how language starts to evade you at the end of the day. But yes, so I think what we're really going for is how do you get more bang for the buck? Like, how do you really serve in a greater way, increase your income, but you're not wasting a lot of time and energy in client relationships that aren't going to go anywhere.
That's true. And you mentioned bang for the buck. And as you were saying that, it struck me that, you can buy a lot of things. You can buy marketing tools and platforms and hire copywriters. And, but there's one thing you can't really buy, and that's authenticity. And when you figure out who your tribe is and decide to focus on them, the next question, of course, is, well, how can I best serve them? Which a lot of times that means you're going to go a little deeper. If you're a coach, for instance, maybe your transformations become a little more foundational or fundamental than they might otherwise. You dig a little deeper to find the perfect solution for that perfect, tribe of clients. And when you do that, I think we just naturally start being more authentically who we are. And that authenticity, you don't do it to get a marketing edge, but certainly can give you a marketing edge, one that can't be purchased or achieved in any other way. So that's kind of a cool side benefit too.
Yeah. It's funny. I really wish I would have known you and this work when I started my journey, because I got talked into, do what works and, the whole mainstream view of marketing. And I really felt like I lost myself at some point in my journey, and I had to reconnect to the most authentic piece of me. So let's talk about, what it really means to market from heart, and maybe let's give people a couple pieces of insight into what does your marketing look like if it's coming from a heart-based place?
That's a good question. You've got a couple of good questions in there. And let me point out that there are coaches, there are gurus, people who are, doing very well, who do advocate finding a hungry crowd and then feeding them really anything. Mm-hmm. And you can make a lot of money that way. And they're not wrong. That is true. You can do that. But when you come at it from that angle, what you're saying is, I want to be successful and make a lot of money first and foremost. How I do it, what I do it with, and what I'm talking about on a daily basis isn't that important to me. And I don't feel that's a heart-centered approach, but it can work.
Good distinction.
And the lesson you went through, sounds like you just took a little while to figure out, and this isn't really me, and authenticity is important to me, and that it just helped you clarify your priorities. Maybe it just took a while, right?
Well, it was also recognizing when maybe you're not as much in your heart with it. It's not, if you're a emotion-centered person and your priorities and values are authenticity, but you're not using marketing strategies that align with that, it's not really going to be sustainable.
That's very true. And I've gone through that too. I used to do a lot of copywriting and product launches in the currency trading industry. And it's kind of like weight loss. That's one of those markets that's very money driven. There's a lot of churn in that industry. Their ethics aren't always really high. And while the private clients that I was helping in that industry were reasonably ethical and their products and services did actually work, they wouldn't just dream up a product just to make a buck. So in that sense, they were cut above other people in that industry. In doing that for a few years and making really good money at it, I realized there are some aspects to this marketing that are a little uncomfortable. Things like creating urgency where there's no real, or maybe I should say false urgency, just dreaming up something to create some urgency where it didn't really need to exist, right. Or scarcity, saying, oh, we're only going to sell 100 of these and then we're stopping, and saying we were going to do it, but not actually stopping and selling as many as you could. So really lying or stretching the truth, puffing, as they sometimes call it in the marketing industry, to make a buck.
Mm.
And again, it's a personal, ethical, integrity thing. But for me, it took a while. I was like, wow, the payday's great, but yeah, I've got to look myself in the mirror. So I consciously got out of that industry and I said, you know what, from this point forward, I'm going to help heart-centered entrepreneurs because they are the ones who are out there doing what they do for, yeah, they want to get paid, but they've got more than just the financial motivation. And if I can help them, find their message and reach their tribes, I can, have a ripple effect and make a pretty big impact in the world. And I'll have to admit, to be in full integrity, I have never made as much money as a heart-centered tribe marketing expert as I did in that currency trading industry, but it is starting to catch up, and I have no doubt that eventually it will pass it. But I can tell you, I can look in the mirror with no hesitation or qualms, and that wasn't always the case years ago.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you gotta reconnect to your values and your priorities, and then the prosperity catches up.
Yes, sometimes there's a little bit of lag time, and nothing wrong with that.
Yes. So what, I'm really curious. I know I've asked you a couple questions, but I just something dropped in that I want to ask. And you started this concept of the tribe. How do we know if we're not marketing to our real tribe?
Well, that's a great question, and I'm not sure I even answered your specific question about heart-centered marketing, so we can come back around to that.
Yes.
But every tribe has its own set of language. So if your tribe are mechanical engineers, there's structural mechanical engineering terminology that would appeal to them. So if you find that you're using very general language, very broad language, that's one key indicator that you're not really talking to a tribe. If you don't get someone at least every few weeks or every month saying, God, I love what you do. This is so awesome. I can't believe it took me so long to find you, but I'm glad I did. Yeah. You should be hearing that every once in a while, and then you're probably on the right track. So if you're not hearing that, that's a good indicator as well. And also when you're creating your marketing and doing your writing, if you don't have a specific type of person in mind as you're creating your marketing materials, then you probably also have not found your tribe. If you're thinking about, older men, younger women, college students, retirees, and they're all in your mind as you're creating your marketing materials, then you definitely haven't picked a specific tribe, because one of those groups or even a subset of those groups should come to mind as you're creating your marketing materials. And you should be trying to do your best to write specifically in a way that is going to be appealing to, not only appealing, but the word resonance comes to mind. Mm-hmm. You want your work to resonate, but you shouldn't have to try too hard. When you're being authentically you and you're speaking to the right tribe, the words will land properly and they will like what they're hearing and they'll let you know. And so if you're not getting that feedback, then you've probably got some narrowing that needs to be done.
Yeah, I always love it when people say, I say, so who are you targeting in your work? And they say, well, everyone. I'm like, no, we have so much work to do.
Right. Well, as a copywriter, I didn't even realize it. A former copywriter, when I first started hanging out my shingle and clients would come to me and say, hey, let's talk about writing an email sequence or have you write a sales letter. My very first question was, okay, who's your ideal client? And when they would say, well, I sell to everyone, can you write it for everyone? That, like you just said, that's when I'm like, bing, bing, bing. Yeah, we've got a little conversing to do, because yes, I can write a sales letter that will be pleasant for everyone, but will it really grip people and, be persuasive and get them excited and all that? Probably not.
If you're a small business owner working way too much in your business, then you're not really putting your business to work for you. And you could benefit greatly by learning how to develop a team of world-class players to help you accomplish more and literally free you up to get more done. Now, we all want to shatter our income goals. We all want to be able to accomplish much greater results, but it's really difficult to do if you don't know how to delegate masterfully and be able to get the right things off your plate to the right people who will really get things done. That's where the power of the virtual team comes in. Be sure to get your copy right now at virtualteamebook.com. Did I ever tell you my elevator story when it comes to my tribe?
I don't think so, no. Let's hear it.
So when I first started my business, I was kind of in the everyone mode, and, I had very generic language. And so at that time, 15 years ago, I was doing some work on it. And I was really working on crafting better language and really, I used to get in the mind of the person who had that problem, right? Because at that point it was about the
Yeah.
overwhelm of running your business. And I would come up with like, all right, what does that feel like? And what are they saying to themselves, right? So I'd really spend a lot of time like getting in their mindset. And so I was speaking at an event down in Orange County one time, and I was going down to give my speech, and the elevator doors open as I was coming out of my room, and this woman's standing there with her husband, and she goes, "Are you Melanie Benson Strick?" And I said, "Yes." And oh no, this was after I gave my talk. Sorry, this was after I gave my talk. She says, and she like literally, she's like, "Oh my God," and it was like I thought she was gonna faint for a minute. She's like, "You get me." She's like, "You totally know what my problem is. You just solved a problem my husband and I have been having forever." Of course, they bought my program. And the lesson that I learned was that when I really took the time to deeply understand what the thought patterns were and what the feelings were and what the conversations were that people are having in their head or having with their spouse at night before they go to bed, there's a compelling energy that pulls people in and makes them want to solve the problem with you or to go for the solution with you, whichever direction you're going. And it was really powerful. So I think that's what you're saying is when you're really developing a relationship with your tribe and you're understanding what the issues are your tribe has, there's so much energy and it's like the big yes is there. They're just waiting for you to give them an opportunity to solve the problem.
That's true. And in the work that I do, helping people figure out who their tribe should be, there's definitely a moment a few weeks into the process where it all coalesces or crystallizes and they realize they have a very narrow focus, which is good. And they've picked a tribe and they know the program or the offering or the service that they want to present. And they suddenly start getting ideas flooding them about the language to use and how to say it. And it all comes together and they kind of get this, oh my God, I'm so excited energy. And that's when I know we're on the right track because that comes in, that inspiration to help a certain person.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long before stories like yours come up where people validate for them that they've done a great job and they are reaching a specific, avatar or tribe member.
Yeah. And I think, the language that you will hear back is something like when you gave that speech or I heard you on that webinar or I read that blog post, I heard me in what you're saying.
Right.
That's the clincher.
That's you just kind of gave a tip without maybe even realizing it. For most of my clients, when we're looking at who they should be helping and who their tribe is, 99% of the time it's somebody almost exactly like them. Maybe the way they were just 2 or 3 years before. So if you're helping someone other than people a lot like you think through why that is. And that's a great tip on how to find your tribe.
That is a really great tip. And I think unwittingly I fell into that situation, but I think if most of us were teaching that what we've learned if we're in the information marketing business. So what are some other tips? I know I opened up that conversation earlier about heart-based marketing. So what are some other things that we need to know about really being a heart-based marketer?
Well, 2 things come to mind. One is don't try to be something you're not. If you find yourself attempting to project any kind of image or persona, or that's not to say you're not always stepping into the next greater version of you, but if you find yourself writing something where it just doesn't feel or sound like you, then stop. That's your intuition telling you you're kind of getting off course a little bit. So that's a big tip. Another trap, though, that people fall into when it comes to tribe marketing or picking a tribe or the fear of it, a lot of people get into the trap of thinking they're not good enough, they don't know enough, they don't have enough coaching certifications or credentials or master's degrees or whatever the case may be. And I like to give the analogy, if you look at elementary schoolers, for us, a 5th grade kid, not exactly someone that we look up to necessarily, but to a 3rd grader, a kid in the 5th grade is a pretty big deal. And so think of yourself as a 5th grader, and the question to ask yourself are, who's my 3rd grader? Who's going to look up to me as someone who's been through a lot and someone who has a lot of life experience and someone who can really mentor me and guide me through to navigate some turbulent waters? And so for every person out there, there is a third grader to look up to you. So just figure out who that is. So you're good enough as you are. You don't necessarily need more credentials or training or years of experience. Just figure out who the group of people is that are going to look up to you and then focus on that group.
I love it. And I think we almost always get to this place through a lot of trial and error for ourselves, as you mentioned earlier. I'm kind of curious about, your own journey after leaving, copywriting for these big, money driven companies.
Mm-hmm.
So you've been in this world for a while. You've been doing copywriting. You've been working with coaches and consultants. So let's talk about, the click for you, that moment where you realize like who your tribe was and who you were meant to work with on the heart-based side of business.
Well, I can't say I had like a massive epiphany on it. It wasn't like a big aha.
Wasn't like the
No, it was a gradual refinement process.
Okay. Which is what was for me too.
Yeah. So I like personal development and spirituality. So those are two fields that I've gravitated towards books on those two topics. Mm-hmm. And so I started when I was taking on different copywriting projects, I was just more drawn to those types of things. Mm-hmm. In fact, for a while, I even started calling myself a spirituality copywriter because I thought people had never heard that title before. As far as I know, I'm the only one that ever used that, and it would, get some attention. And those were the projects I wanted. Mm-hmm. And then from there, after working with a lot of people, I realized I really like helping women. They are just, for whatever reason, all my friends are women. I hang out with women. I'm not, male energy I don't always resonate with. And so it was just kind of a no-brainer to help women entrepreneurs. And then refining that further, coaches, because I became a coach. I was a law of attraction and prosperity coach for a while. And I recognize that coaches are certainly much more eager to invest in themselves and push their comfort zone and all that kind of stuff. So in just working through all those criteria, I just found my tribe are women a lot like yourself who are go-getters, they're entrepreneurial, they're heart-centered, they love spirituality. They might even love some of that woo-woo, new age, channeling type stuff, which I'm really into. So I don't know, I just refined my way into it. It wasn't an epiphany or I saw, had a near-death experience and came back with the answer or anything like that.
Well, I'm actually glad you said that because I think a lot of people think I'm supposed to have this all figured out or I'm supposed to know. And I know there's some marketers out there that really kind of put that pressure on you. It's like, you got to get this figured out. You're supposed to know who your tribe is or your niche is. And, it was a lot of refining and kind of pulling away what doesn't work for me to figure out who do I work with. And I finally realized that you really, change agents and what we might even call change makers are really the people that I love working with the most. And I can work with a lot of other people, but when I'm working with those change makers who are up to playing a really big game, like magic happens. And I don't necessarily get that same magic when I work with people who aren't tapped in and at that passion level. And it certainly took me probably a good 12 years to really finally be able to say, these are my people, even though I worked with them the whole time.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily happen overnight. It can happen very quickly if you're very intentional about it. But for some people, like you and I, it's more of a deductive process that happens over time. And that's okay. And I'll point out too, it's not like you're done, like you pick a tribe and you're done. Actually, it's kind of an iterative process, meaning every year or so, you take the new information from helping new clients and the feedback you're getting and the results they're getting. And then, of course, there's changes to the world, into the marketplace, into the marketing platforms and all that. So it's always a bit of a cycle where you readdress and fine tune even more, or maybe you just decide you want to shift gears a little bit and there's nothing wrong with that. And then I take my clients through a process where first, okay, once you've either figured out or refined your tribe, then you've got to take a fresh look at your offerings, your programs, your services, your widgets, if you sell products, whatever they are, and figure out how you can adjust those or fine tune them to have maximum appeal and usability and all that for your tribe members. And then you've also got to take a fresh look at your brand and your identity and how you're actually presenting yourself, both online and offline, to make sure when they do come to your website or your LinkedIn profile or whatever the case may be, that the message there is really going to resonate for them. And that's a constant process. So it's not a one time and done thing.
Yeah, no. And I really appreciate you saying that because it's almost like life. You're going to be constantly evolving it and fine tuning it and finding nuances of what works and what doesn't work.
That's right.
I want to
Exactly.
go back to something you said though, and it was that intentional process piece. And I know you teach a program helping people to really understand who their tribe is and how to really build their programs to fit that niche. Um, why is it important that we understand our tribe before we create programs? Because I think a lot of people do this the opposite way, and I want to know what your experience is with that.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of, really, really obvious to me anyway, that depending on who your tribe is, every tribe potentially has a different learning style,
Mm-hmm.
first of all. So if, let's say, you're helping busy executives, because of their very demanding schedule, they may only have very short blocks of time, 15 minutes here, a plane trip there where they can carve out some time. So if you were to try to present some kind of service or offering that were out videos that were hours long, or 2-hour training webinars per week that they had to watch, start to finish. That's just not going to work with their schedule. So there's just that logistical reality that based on your tribe's schedule and their lifestyle, the delivery or the modality of how you deliver your products or services is going to need to be adjusted
Mm-hmm.
so that they can work with it. That's the obvious one. And then another one, again, is just learning style. Some people love visuals, some people love audio, other people need hands-on, kinesthetic learners. There's all these, 4 or 5 major categories of learning styles, and your tribe's people may fall into one of those. And if you're not cognizant of their learning style, you may be trying to, reach them with the completely wrong style or learning type, and it may not work. You might feel like you may be led astray, let's put it that way, if you don't think those kinds of things through. That's really important.
Yeah, and I would imagine, and I think I've experienced this, that sometimes you're building a program for one person, but you end up going off track and you create things that aren't going to be appealing to them. And then what happens is your programs don't do well, and you're kind of like vanilla to the people that you want to work with. And so either you're attracting the wrong people or you're not attracting any people. And I'll tell you, like a little personal experience I had with that was that when I first launched my leadership programs many years ago, it was completely the wrong time in the market. But we didn't know that when we started. Who knew that the entire credit world was going to collapse? But details. Uh, but what I did find was that we had designed this program called the CEO Factor for entrepreneurs, but they didn't really like the idea that they would be a CEO. So it was like completely the wrong brand. And it was a big lesson, even though the work was very powerful and we did do some work with people that loved it. It just didn't have the right energy to attract the people who it was really designed for. So these are the kinds of things you learn when you don't do the tribe and understand what they are before you go into product creation.
And you're right, but it's okay. Again, everything is
Everything
cyclical,
happens the way it's supposed to.
exactly. And if you have an existing offering or a program or a service of some sort, and you then pick a tribe, it's okay. You can go back and just fine tune. Usually, you don't have to start over with a clean slate. You can usually just make some adjustments and find, a few tweaks here and there, and it might be perfectly suitable for your tribe at that point. So it's not like you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Thank you for saying that, because a lot of people feel really freaked out when they're like, oh my God, I have to start over. Sometimes it's fine tuning.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So for you, Ryan, in this journey, what is one thing you wish that you knew earlier in your process that when you learned it, it was tremendously helpful for you in doing the work that you love most?
Good question. Most helpful thing. Well, actually, I said it earlier that you don't have to be a guru. You don't have to be the best in the world at what you do. A lot of people hold themselves back for years, and they actually stay in that perpetual learning mode, afraid to actually execute, because they feel like when they become public, or when they start leading a tribe through heart-centered service, they feel like they're going to get put under a microscope. There's going to be a lot of scrutiny, and that they may not live up to people's expectations. And a lot of times the feelings of being a fraud come up for people. And actually, if you're feeling that intensely, that is a good indicator that you're not on the right track and you're not marketing yourself to your tribe, because the people who know you and understand and get you, they're not going to scrutinize you like that. But a lot of people are afraid of that, so they just delay their success thinking they have to have all their ducks run 100% in a row before they'll execute. And you never get to that point ever. So not being willing to put out imperfect products and services. That expression of good enough is good enough. I'm a big believer in that. So don't. So if I'd realized that sooner, I probably would have ventured into my own business and launched my career a lot sooner.
Yeah. And the whole theme here is about optimizing. I'm wondering around marketing, if you have discovered that one sweet spot to really optimize that gives you the best bang for the buck, the best momentum when you put energy and focus onto it.
Well, when it comes to marketing, any outlet, any platform, any venue has the potential to be a good one, but your tribe is congregating somewhere in the marketing campaign that you were thinking about putting together may not actually be where your tribe is. So it's really figuring out who your tribe is totally informs what your marketing approach is going to be and where you advertise and how you reach people and all that. And again, most people they do it totally backwards. They just start marketing themselves
Right.
without having a tribe in mind. And then after they waste a couple $100,000 and beat their head against the wall for 5 or 7 years, they realize, oh, something's not working here. I need to back up. And that's, again, doing things in a certain order, figuring out your tribe and adjusting your offerings and looking at your brand and identity and all that. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, no, you kind of did, actually. You reminded me of several years of hardcore learnings where I was just giving talks and doing things to anybody that would ask me, and it wasn't necessarily where my tribe was. So you're right. Sometimes just refining where your efforts are going out can be a huge optimizing, because you're not spending time on things that aren't able to perform.
That's true. And, I want to mention that you're not locked into a tribe. So if you like the idea of doing this, but you fear committing to something and like, oh, what if I choose the wrong tribe so what? You can always re-choose. You can always adjust. I mean, life's about trial and error sometimes, but you're a lot more likely to succeed if you pick a tribe and fall on your face and pick a different one and fall on your face. You can do that very quickly until you do find the right tribe and the right combination versus spending years just, broadly marketing yourself to the general public.
Yeah. And, you bring up a great point too about some people really, they have a lot of places they can play. Get one channel working well, get one tribe really optimized, and then you can go try it out with other tribes that might be speaking a different language, but they have similar needs. So
that's true. You can serve multiple tribes at the same time. You usually want to keep them a little bit kind of isolated or segregated, so they don't necessarily know about the other tribes.
Yes.
Once you are succeeding with one tribe, it will create cash flow and income and give you the freedom so you can then go into other areas and have that luxury of taking your time and doing it right. So it's not like you're stuck with one tribe forever. So you have to pick the right one. And it's just not that big of a deal. You can serve multiple tribes and you can make changes down the line.
I love it. And I like that you are creating this permission to completely mess everything up. And then you can still recover and get back on track. It's like really in life, there are no mistakes. There's information. Be willing to make some mistakes, be willing to just get out there and start seeing what works. But I would highly encourage you to tap into the knowledge about building a tribe and really learning how to market to that tribe. And Ryan, you are such a great resource here. How could people find out more about building their tribe through you?
Sure. Well, I usually hold a training webinar every couple of weeks where I spend about an hour talking about this with more, tactical, strategic, how-to type information. And so I always I try my best to post that latest and greatest webinar at tribegps.net. So if someone goes to tribegps.net and just register for whatever the next upcoming training event is, that's a great way to connect with me.
Love it. Thank you. Any last parting words of wisdom or anything you wanted to be able to share but haven't yet?
Don't let fear stop you. It is scary when you start focusing a little bit because, again, it's like, oh, what if I screw up or what if so what? You're human. Everyone, again, I give you permission to make mistakes and be fallible and not be perfect. That's totally okay. Don't let fear stop you because it's worth it.
That is great.
People need your help, so do it.
Yeah. And, I'll just make the mystery go away. I screw up all the time.
Me too.
And I'm still screwing up. Which is part of the reason why it's so great to have a resource that you can turn to for guidance on that area that maybe isn't your strength. But it's really, really, it's a mindset to recognize you're not really screwing up. You're not really making mistakes. You're just trying things to see if they're going to work or not. And yeah, just course correct. So Ryan, thanks so much for being here today and sharing your wisdom and your gifts. And I really encourage you guys to, go sit through one of the trainings. I know your time's super valuable, but an hour and 15 minutes invested in really learning to talk to the people that need you most better and what language can you be using. That refinement, optimizing that process is gold, not just to your bottom line, but to your productivity, to your ability to live your purpose and truly be able to impact the people that need you the most. It's worth every second you invest in learning how to do that better. So Ryan, thanks for being one of those people that are showing us the way.
Well, thanks for asking me to chat today. You're helping me fulfill my purpose by delivering this information to everyone watching and listening. So thank you, Melody.
You're welcome. That's my job. Get the change makers out there in the world, share them with everybody, guide the ones that need a little help. And for those of you that do need a little bit of help, figuring out who you are and how to make your business perform better, doing what you love best, that's where I come in. So I'd love to hear from you today. What was a aha moment, something you can put into action? Head on over to melaniebensonstrick.com. If you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher Radio, that's where you can find out more about the program. And we've got all of the links and contact information for Ryan there as well. So bye, everybody. See you again next week.